Today's Total Soccer Show is sponsored by SeatGeek. You can get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase of a ticket when you download the SeatGeek app. Enter the promo code TSS today. That's TSS for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man whose flag is always attached. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. I love that when that happened, the AR's flag falling apart, I thought this might end up being a thing that we talk about at length on the show. It seems like it's going to be a footnote in the end.
I mean, yeah, right? Because so much else happened. There was a brief moment where, on the broadcast, Stu Holden said it looks like a lightsaber.
Yep.
Not sure Stu Holden has properly seen Star Wars.
I don't think so.
Maybe he saw it before the special effects were added.
That could
to
be.
me, it looked more like a stun gun or a cattle prod.
Well. Yeah.
And I'm thinking the only good use for it would have been if Roma had employed that linesman to maybe give Mohamed Salah a poke as he was going down the line, because that might have been the only way to stop him.
Or, just like properly mark him. But yeah, that's probably the other way, is stun guns. Yeah, why not?
All right, so big picture, Liverpool 5, Roma 2. In a weird way, I think there are two parts to this game. There's the part where Liverpool destroyed Roma. To use a Roman thing, decimated Roma.
Well,
don't
Latin
get into
nerd.
it.
Latin nerd here.
So Liverpool decimated, definitely, and mathematically accurately decimated Roma.
Why are you doing this?
It gets to, 5-0. Last 10 minutes, Roma come back with 2 goals.
I was going to say we made it almost 2 minutes. Not even. We made it almost a minute and 30 seconds before Daryl chose to be antagonistic. But yes, that is basically what happened.
And it does weirdly coincide with Mohamed Salah being subbed out.
Yes.
So maybe, and Danny Ings subbing in.
Yeah.
Is it as simple as that? Is it that sort of the fear disappeared when Mohamed Salah left the field and no one's scared of Danny Ings?
Oh, yeah, that could be. No, I just don't want it to be poor Danny Ings' fault.
Yeah.
Yes and no.
Because if you're Danny Ings, are you sort of thinking, oh no, is this my fault? It was all was good before I came on.
I feel like if anything, you're going to think, hey, everyone, this isn't my fault.
Yeah.
And try to make that very clear. Liverpool fans, don't worry. We're definitely going to break this game down and talk about just how exciting Liverpool were. But yes, I think, Daryl, to your point, that was probably representative of, we'll take him out, we'll give him a little bit of rest, we'll give him the ovation because the game is almost over. And it felt almost like Liverpool made some changes and took their foot off the gas, thinking it was like the 85th minute and not the 75th minute.
Yeah, that's fair. You could also say as well, there may be some credit to Eusebio Di Francesco, because isn't it around the time of Danny Ings coming in, Mohamed Salah leaving?
Yes.
He makes 2 subs of his own. I think Gonalon comes on for De Rossi, and I think also Perotti comes on. Patrick Schick has come in as well. So he's made 3 total subs round about that time to really
Schick was halftime, but yeah, otherwise.
Schick was halftime?
Yep.
Really? So he did try and shake things up, and that did maybe make a difference. So let's not blame it all on Danny Ings.
No, I think that's fair. and Schick was for Cengiz Under, so I think that was more of a like for like. Let's just see if this just maybe isn't working because of the personnel.
Yeah.
The changes you're referring to was when they went from a back 3 to a back 4, and it was more of like a 4-1-3-2, 4-1-4-1 sort of situation.
So that was better for Roma. So let's maybe talk about why that Roma back 3 absolutely did not work. Because I saw I can't remember who said it, but coming into this game, there was a Roma player said, we've got a plan to deal with Liverpool's front 3. And it turns out it was, we'll play 3 at the back, and I think Daniele De Rossi sort of sitting in front of them. And there were all kinds of reasons that did not work at all.
It's very strange because it definitely seemed when we first watched this, like the first 15 to 20 minutes, that Roma had a plan and were really frustrating Liverpool. That's the way it felt when we watched it live.
Because we saw, for example, Nangolan was sort of making sure to stick with Jordan Henderson, so Liverpool couldn't play through. He's kind of like Liverpool's Fernandinho, right? The Liverpool couldn't play through him. Roma were like sitting off a little bit.
He being Henderson in that situation.
Roma was sitting off a little bit, and not like chasing Liverpool, but sitting off a little bit so they couldn't play short passes, forcing them to go long. And on first viewing, it seemed like it was working. We watched this again, not so much.
Well, I think it was working in the sense that you're absolutely right, that basically they were sitting off a little bit, but not letting that short goal kick, or when Karius would catch the ball, there was never that quick outlet out wide.
And you saw him look annoyed, right? He would want to go short, but he would end up having to go long. Same with Virgil van Dijk, would have to go long and would look a little frustrated.
But it reminded me, honestly, a little bit of what I think it was, it might have been Thomas Tuchel at that point, what Bayern Munich did to Thomas Tuchel's Borussia Dortmund, where it was like, fine, you want us to go long? We will go long, but we will go long with accuracy Chelsea. And I think that was the difference, is that instead of Karius putting his foot on the ball and kind of looking around and getting frustrated and then kicking long, or Lovren doing the same thing, or Virgil van Dijk doing the same thing, what started to happen is Liverpool would go not necessarily long, but like direct. I think Warren Barton called them long passes, not long balls. But it was not only would they go long, but they would go long very quickly. And
yes,
I think
that's the key.
Yeah, because once you've got, and what you did have regularly was the front three of Liverpool matched up against those back three center backs with the two wing backs pressed, I would say, too far forward to maybe try to cut off passing angles. But what that ended up doing was leaving a 3v3 situation with a high line. And I think Liverpool started to recognize, we can put it in the corner where that wing back no longer is and there's space there. Or we seem to be winning all the 50-50 balls after there's that initial challenge for the long ball.
I think that's true. Yeah, there'd be a direct ball and then there'd be a 50-50. Liverpool player would pick it up in midfield. And then you'd see someone like Mohamed Salah would go to his right, and he would get in that space between left centre-back Juan Jesus and left wing-back Kolarov. And as soon as Kolarov goes a little bit up the field, then Salah's got loads of space to play with. And Jesus is kind of isolated versus Mohamed Salah, which is not where you want to be.
No, and so we thought, Liverpool must have made some very clever adjustment to figure this out. And I think they did. They started to play faster with those direct passes.
That was it, right?
But aside from that, it wasn't like, they moved this guy out wide, or they pulled this person in, or they overloaded in the middle. It was just sort of like, you're going to do this? Well, then we will exploit that.
Yep.
And it felt like they were sort of prepared for Roma to do what they did.
I sort of thought first time round that it was that James Milner had figured it out, and he'd, instead of saying central, he had pulled wide. I watched again, because we watched it basically the whole game again, right? He was just pulling wide and running all over the place the entire game.
Yep.
That man is not human.
No. And then you informed me after the fact that he played, every single minute this past weekend?
90 minutes plus whatever added time there was against West Brom. Yeah, it's more or less the same midfield, because Oxlade-Chamberlain went out and Wijnaldum came in. Oxlade-Chamberlain was the only one rested in midfield this weekend. And Liverpool did field a somewhat weakened team. Danny Ings started, for example.
Yeah.
Henderson, Milner and Wijnaldum played 90 against West Brom.
Maybe that proves that that's never a weakened team. Worth noting, Wijnaldum did not start in this game, did come on in the first half for Oxlade-Chamberlain, who we think has some sort of severe knee injury.
So there's no scam. We haven't seen the results yet. We don't get to see the results.
I think you
said
scam for a second. I was like, I'm not trying to say there was.
But there was an interview with Klopp where he said, I don't know, but I think his season's over. Which, by the way, has repercussions for England's World Cup squad.
It sure does.
Yeah.
But I think
that has me worried.
The way he went down clutching his knee, it looked like knee to shin. He went for a tackle, clutching his knee, kind of crawled around, tried to get back up, and then the next time we saw him, he was immobile in a stretcher. And not just immobile like being carried off the field, but being carried all the way around the field and back into the tunnel. To me, that speaks to the type of injury where it doesn't seem like it's so bad at first, but maybe he tried to put weight on it and maybe just bent it a little bit or cut a little bit on it, and that was all it took.
There was a second when he stood up and we really thought, he's going to... Oh, no.
No, yeah. I think when he stood up, right when we thought maybe, is when the trainer turned to the bench and did the rapid-fire substitution gesture, and that was when we knew maybe he's not going to make it.
Okay, can we talk about maybe the first goal? Because I think the first goal is a perfect example of Liverpool's counter-press, the Gegenpress, sort of win it off them, send it back down there.
There were two different instances of this, and they kind of bookended it because it was for the first and fifth goals. But this one especially was Liverpool countering the counterattack. And basically the idea there is if you can catch a team counterattacking you, if you can catch them in the right moment, they have everybody pushing forward. They're all trying to counter and exploit that opportunity.
This is the Aiden Dzeko moment, right? It's Dzeko kind of gets tackled at midfield and the ball pops loose, and then Liverpool, I think Mane is the one with the quick pass and then a quick pass out to Salah, and then Salah does his Arjen Robben.
I mean, yeah.
It's a really good impression of Arjen Robben.
I mean, and it's especially because it's like what we all knew he wanted to do, and they kind of let him do it anyway, was cut back inside, put it on his left foot, put that ball in the top corner. But it is, you have players like, say, Kolarov, who is pushing forward maybe 5 or 10 yards more than he would be otherwise. But because you're in that counterattacking moment, you think, we can seize upon this, we can catch them when they're vulnerable. But really, the idea of Gegenpress, if you're not familiar, is that you are vulnerable when you are counterattacking, because then you have people kind of bombing forward without really thinking about what they're doing, and then they leave space for other teams to occupy.
It's not Kolarov's fault, right?
Nope.
And it's not really even Aiden Dzeko's fault. I think he gets tackled, but then gets back and wins the ball again, and then gets tackled again, because Liverpool have that sort of hunting a pack Gegenpress mentality of just, we're going all after you right now, and there's no way out.
Yeah, and basically, unless you have been drilled not to go forward even when counterattacking, if the coach has said, we're not playing on the counter at all, I don't want any counterattacks, there's no real way to deal with that, because your natural inclination is, we might have a numerical advantage here. If I get into that attack, I'm going to help. And the likely reality is if Kolarov hadn't gotten to the attack, that ball goes out wide and it rolls out for a Liverpool throw-in, he's going to be hearing about it from Di Francesco. So you can't really blame him there, to your point.
And isn't the idea as well, Roma's plan definitely in the first half was, we are going to hit it long to Edin Dzeko, and he'll more than likely win it. And he mostly did, right?
I would say very often.
He lost the very first one to Dejan Lovren, and he lost a few others to Dejan Lovren, but for a lot of the time, he was bringing it down with his chest, he was laying it off. And so in Kolarov's defence, I think the thing is, once it goes to Dzeko, you've got to go forward and support, otherwise he's kind of on his own, right?
Yeah, and I would even say there's... maybe this is giving Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp too much credit, but I'm not sure that's possible. But there's almost an argument to be made of if Edin Dzeko is so skilled at bringing the ball down and holding it up, if you try to over-pursue and if you try to overcommit and win a header that you shouldn't be challenging for, that's essentially how Roma get their first goal. And I think maybe there's an argument to be made of, fine, hold the ball up, but you still have a bunch of people who are way behind who now have to sprint 30 yards to help you out. So even if you hold it up, eventually we'll poke it away from you. And I would say even with that in mind, I don't necessarily blame Dejan Lovren for losing some of those challenges. I've seen some people doing that on the social medias. And in my opinion, yes, I know media is already plural, people. But I feel like maybe there is an argument to be made that that's intentional as well. Like, fine, if you want to hold it up and dribble back towards your own goal and drop into your half, that benefits us.
But also Jordan Henderson's going to poke it away from you.
Well, there is that too, yes.
If you do that. I mentioned that Salah does his Arjen Robben impression. It's maybe worth explaining what that is for people who are not as familiar with Arjen Robben.
Yeah, it's Arjen Robben, you know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to play on the wing, but he's going to cut back inside.
Left-footed on the right wing.
Exactly. Get into, basically cut inside. It's the inverted winger idea of getting onto his favored foot so he can shoot from a favorable angle. It's exactly what Mohamed Salah does. He kind of feigns like he might go to the touchline, is given way too much space by, I believe, Manolas.
Yes.
Who is doing the... I think he's not doing the hands behind the back, is he? He's doing the
hands covering your valuable parts as if you're facing a free kick thing, which I think is really odd. Like, it's maybe not that helpful when you're facing a free kick, but it's actually not that helpful in open play because it makes it harder to run around. You try running around with your hands in in front of your groin. You're not as athletic and quick to move.
And here's where I would say, listeners, I didn't necessarily agree with Daryl when he first said that because, in my mind, if you put your hands behind your back, you're equally not mobile. But having watched him try to do both in The Office, I can say he is correct. It is harder to run while covering your nether regions.
There you go. It is, because it's just a weird, unnatural position to be having. It's almost because your shoulders slumped forward a little bit. You're not in a sort of athletic go this way or that way type position. I would kind of blame Manolas for not closing down Salah for this goal. He was more concerned with his future family than he was for defending Roma's goal.
I don't think I want to go more in depth on this, but I could. Suffice to say, I feel like it still slows you down more because there's got to be some adjusting. Like you can't just, it's a fluid situation. But in this case, it's basically Manolas standing off, not really wanting to, I think, overcommit. Basically, I think he doesn't want to get posterized, and so it is that sort of
we're podcasterizing him.
Yes, because I think, and like I've done this in the past when I knew I was going against a more talented attacker, I would think stand him up, and then if he crosses the ball into the box, that's fine because at least I've sort of not let him get around me. It's not my fault. And I do sort of think that's what Manolas is doing is as long as he doesn't nutmeg me or like make me look ridiculous, then I'm doing an okay job. It's just in this case, he then lets Salah cut onto his favored foot and crack a shot, fairly uncontested.
Well, here's what I want to do. I don't want to go goal by goal, right? Because it's going to be a very long show if we go through each and every goal. You okay with that?
Yeah.
So I would just say that the Liverpool's fifth goal, as you mentioned, is also a result of the counter press.
Yeah.
Right? Roma are trying to clear, and they're just... So it's Mohamed Salah has 2 attempts at playing a through ball. Roma, he sort of mishits it both times. Roma get it back. But each time Liverpool are on it, they end up forcing, I can't remember who it is, but they force a Roma defender into a really sort of hurried, he's trying to pass it back to an even deeper defender and he ends up passing it right out of bounds for a corner kick.
It was the Frenchman who subbed on, whose name I can't remember, but you
gone alone.
Too. Yes, he had just subbed on. I remember that because
my memory device is he's gone alone.
There you
gone
go.
alone. Yeah.
But he had just subbed on like 2 minutes before that, so it was almost like his first touch was to play it out for a corner. But yeah, again, that is Liverpool conceding possession, but then pressuring Roma into conceding possession themselves twice. And that was the other very common occurrence in this game. I don't know what the passing stats were off the top of my head or giveaways or like, what's it called? Like unforced errors, but I'm going to assume that Roma committed a lot of those because it felt like they kept coughing up possession.
But they're secretly forced errors, right?
Yes.
If you're being counter-pressed.
I guess that's true, yes. Secretly forced errors is the stat that I want to know. But either way, it's passed out. James Milner takes the corner, which now I believe makes him the all-time single-season assist leader in the Champions League, which is impressive.
That's amazing. So James Milner is now up there with the likes of sort of Messi and Ronaldo in terms of having some Champions League records.
As well he should be. But yeah, and he plays it into the head of Roberto Firmino. Firmino with a lovely header. Well done, Daryl.
Okay, what else can we talk about in this game?
Well, we can talk about, if you don't mind really quickly, that one comes from a corner. And Firmino, he just does a really good job to attack the ball. Roma in his zone don't do as well. But what I did want to say was one thing I think we both thought was particularly interesting was Liverpool definitely had a little bit of master set-piece theater going on. Yes. Not necessarily with this corner, but with two in the first half where Dejan Lovren, one time he headed it back across. It was caught by Alisson. One time he hit the crossbar with a header. Both times it is Dejan Lovren sort of starting near the top of the 18 and he drifts to the back post. Sadio Mane, who is not a player you would think should be inside the 6 getting ready to attack a header, he drifts about 8 yards from goal, so he moves like 2 or 3 yards out. In both cases, blocks Daniele De Rossi, just steps behind him and kind of screens him. Because you can see De Rossi back up to try to defend the corner and realize he cannot go anywhere. And that creates a huge amount of space for Dejan Lovren to then attack.
I think that's the thing too. I would bet Liverpool do that pretty regularly is set a pick, I guess is like the basketball terminology, right? Or set a screen and then aim for Lovren at the back post in as much space as you can manage for him.
And then I think it's either Lovren turns it on frame or as on frame as he can get it, or puts it back across. I think the one that Alisson was able to catch, he was looking for Virgil van Dijk, who was at the
other
back
post. Which is a dangerous pair to be trying to defend in the air.
Yeah.
You mentioned Daniele De Rossi on the rewatch. Yeah. So on the first watch, I barely noticed Daniele De Rossi. And I'm familiar with his game, like combative midfielder with a beautiful eye for a long ball, kind of heart of the team and all that sort of stuff.
And I agree, and I think we're probably in the same boat then, that we were both just sort of like, I'm sure he had a good game. Like, that was kind of where I was. I'm like, I'm sure this isn't his fault. I'm sure other stuff went wrong.
Not least because we watched the Barcelona game when they came back and won 3-0, went through. He was absolutely incredible. And so it's just hard. It felt hard to criticise him and to think of him having a bad game. On the rewatch, he has a bad game. Yeah. I don't think it's all his fault, though. I think it's the job he was asked to do was not doable, I don't think. So, okay, here's my understanding of it. Roma have their back three, and then Daniele De Rossi is basically told, sit in front of the back three and screen everything you can.
I think so.
But what ends up happening is, as we talked about, Liverpool were hitting sort of very fast balls out wide for, Salah or Sadio Mane to sort of run onto and get in those gaps, be sort of to the sides of the centre-backs. They didn't go through the middle at all. So there's nothing for Daniele De Rossi to do to defend, right? No. And then Liverpool aren't going to give you time on the ball when you win it back to give it to your deepest midfielder so he can pick out long passes. They're never going to give you that much time.
No.
So he ends up, I feel like almost every goal, you can watch Daniele De Rossi is there and he's got a good view of it, but there's nothing he can do about it because he's just watching it happen from a sort of a position of impotency in many ways, which is not a phrase Daniele De Rossi would like me using.
Of central impotence, I would say. That's the key thing. Because for the third and fourth goals, both of which come from Mohamed Salah making runs down the right-ish side of the field, it is long balls that, if you watch, especially on the fourth one, Roma are really, I think, trying to not necessarily man mark, but make sure everybody's covered. And it is Daniele De Rossi who's kind of just standing there. He's the only one not marking anybody. And again, if your job is screen the back three, cut off passing options, he is kind of doing that. But if you're doing that at the expense of, okay, well, we're just going to bypass you and play it to a channel where no one is defending, then it kind of isn't solving any problems.
And isn't the problem that if he's sitting there in front, stopping any passes coming into the middle, which I guess he's doing, but he's not marking anyone, then someone else is having to pick someone else up. And that means Liverpool will always have a free man and they'll always be able to overload and send balls out wide. Isn't that? Was it the fourth goal you were talking about? Is that when there's a massive overload on the right side?
When you have three different players with their hands in the air for Liverpool? Yes.
Yeah, it was Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think Wijnaldum, and then it ends up being Salah going down the line. Right? Yeah.
And it's Kolarov again who kind of has to decide which one am I going to try to mark? He tries to step to put Trent Alexander-Arnold
under pressure. He picks the middle one, right?
Yeah.
Is it like a drunk person seeing three things and just deciding the middle one's probably the real one?
Or an overwhelmed defender just trying to do something. But yeah, so I think you're absolutely right. And I think that De Rossi was also maybe tasked with step into spaces. So when you have Nainggolan blocking off Jordan Henderson, make sure that there isn't an easy ball just right behind Jordan Henderson to somebody else. So I think De Rossi kind of responsible for that. But if he's always patrolling and trying to shield, that doesn't ever mean he's stepping and aggressively winning the ball or aggressively challenging for the ball. And I think it gives Liverpool more freedom to operate as a result.
And then you end up with Liverpool sort of all-star attack running one-on-one versus Roma defenders. Yes. The fourth goal that you talked about, it's when Salah puts it across the box for, is it Firmino at the far post? This is the one where I think Jesus has tried to learn the lesson of don't let Mohamed Salah cut inside and iron Robin it and shoot with his left foot. Jesus really does. Juan Jesus shows Mohamed Salah the outside, and Mohamed Salah says, okay, I'll take it, and then just accelerates down the outside and squares it back across.
Yeah, and I think that this is a combination of, you're absolutely right, he doesn't want Salah on his left foot, so Jesus maybe tries to show him to the touchline, but is also aware that he is, number one, on a yellow card, and number two, going up against Mohamed Salah, who is very much in form. And you can just see him not be confident and kind of back off and think, as long as he doesn't get by me, I'm okay. And then he kind of overcommits at the last second, and that's why you have Salah not just get by him, but get by him with enough space to then pick out a pass where, even if it looked like Firmino was offside upon first viewing, is onside because I think Manolos drops too deep, but also because the ball is either lateral or played behind Salah because he's that wide open.
Okay, lots more to talk about in this game. But first, if you want to get tickets to a thrilling live event, such as Liverpool beating Roma 5-2, I mean, you can't get tickets to that because it's gone now.
You cannot.
The best way to do it would be with SeatGeek, because buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated and confusing, but not when you have the SeatGeek app. You can tap your phone twice and you can buy or sell a ticket to any live event.
That's right. So whether you're searching for a last-minute deal, planning a night out with friends, or need a perfect gift, the SeatGeek app helps you find the best seats at the best prices. And I'll say that is a good way to use it, is to think, because I do think sometimes, like my wife right now, she's preparing for finals. Maybe she needs a night out. So I have looked at some people that I know she enjoys to see if they're coming to the area. The one who I think she's most into right now is Janelle Monáe. The closest she's coming is Raleigh. She is, I forget what her exact genre description is. It's difficult to go with.
Music?
I'd say yes, music.
Yeah. I'm so
I'd say
with everything.
Pop, funk, soul, kind of rap, kind of R&B.
Right.
I definitely hear a lot of Prince in there. I think it's Prince, Outkast, and I forget who the other inspiration she cites. But I like Janelle Monáe a lot. Unfortunately, closest she's coming is Raleigh. Still only a 2.5-hour drive. So maybe if finals go well, that's a thing we'll be doing.
Also, Total Soccer Show listener Mike Moon used the SeatGeek app and I believe the discount code, which we'll reveal in a second. If you've been listening for a long time, you know what it is. Mike Moon knew what it was. He used SeatGeek to get tickets for him and his dad to see Seattle Sounders versus Minnesota United this past weekend. He got to see, I believe Mike's a Seattle fan, he got to see Seattle win 3-1. If he's a Minnesota fan, then maybe he's not so happy. But I think he's happy.
We'll hear more about that game when we get to the Scouting Network.
Oh, really? Okay.
But right now, if our listeners would like to participate in that offer, they can download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code TSS to get $20 off their first SeatGeek purchase.
That's TSS to get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's episode.
Indeed. We have actually ended up talking about all of the goals except for the second goal, which I think is somehow the
You're
most...
You're completist, aren't you?
It's just might be my favorite.
Okay.
because it is...
Oh, yes. Okay.
It is the most, I think, definitive Liverpool goal from this season in my mind. It's just so it is, of the 5 goals scored today, it's the most definitively Liverpool.
It's my favourite Mohamed Salah goal today.
I mean, yeah, it's of the two. Yeah.
Well, my favourite Salah moment, right? Because he's heavily involved in a couple ways.
But it's where they remind me a lot of the Barcelona front three. Or of the Barcelona front three of old at that.
Salah's very similar to Messi in that sort of way that he's left-footed, plays on the right, does all those kind of things.
And you think like the one, the Iniesta goal we talked about from the weekend review, that starts with Luis Suarez sprinting 30 yards to put in a tackle to keep Barcelona in possession. I mean, that is Roberto Firmino, but it's just also then the ability of that front three to go from either inactive, we're waiting, or tracking back defensively, to suddenly just springing a 70-yard run. And that's where this comes from. Is it Virgil van Dijk who gets the clearance, and it's
just like a big side foot, whack it up in the air, get it away clearance, right?
But it's Mohamed Salah who it is a player who's just so... I always go to Didier Drogba shooting from a 0-degree angle because he's Didier Drogba, and the commentator being when you're in form, you try stuff, and that's Mohamed Salah. I mean, it's a ball to right around midfield. He is sprinting back, and with the outside of his foot, just perfectly flicks it to Roberto Firmino. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I mean, we can talk more about the Salah run in a second, but I want to say how this is also very representative of the game in my mind, because again, I think it's Manolas, then steps to Firmino. Firmino kind of takes a heavy touch, and you think, oh, that's the play done.
I thought this was dead. I thought, oh, he's waited too long for that pass. It's not on anymore. And then somehow Salah is between the centre-backs and one-on-one with the keeper.
Yes, but I mean even before that Firmino at midfield takes a heavy touch and Manolas is there. And that's where you think, like, oh, it's a tackle, it's going the other way. Yeah. And yet Firmino still kind of pokes it through, keeps possession,
kind of fights for it
and then
after
we're
a
away.
Slightly not great touch. Right?
And again, that's where I think of Suarez, where you just... Like, there's all the other things to think about with Luis Suarez, but, like, the fight and the tenacity is the thing that I think is always ever present.
Sometimes too much. Sometimes involving a word that rhymes with fight.
Yep. Yeah. But here, yes, so Firmino gets that ball, gets it past Manolas, and then the key part of this one, and the most, like, visually attractive aside from the finish, is the run from Mohamed Salah.
So, Juan Jesus is trying to track him, right? And he's trying to sort of make up for the initial sort of inability to stop him.
Yeah.
So Salah does this great thing is as Firmino starts coming forward, Salah runs to he's central, right? And he starts running diagonally right as if he's going towards the corner flag. I think Jesus sees that run and thinks, okay, best thing I can do is go full speed, sprint with him. As soon as Salah accelerates, he cuts back and goes to the left, comes back central. Jesus doesn't see that until far too late. Essentially, Salah has sent Jesus in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and I think it's because, number one...
Wild goose chase.
Wild Salah chase.
Yeah.
I think, number one, it's because Jesus thinks, oh, Manolas has stepped to Firmino, so I'll make kind of a covering run. And slightly too late sees Salah streaking towards him, Jesus. So then he tries to do the covering run, as you said. And I think this is where you'll see the other attacker, Firmino has the ball. If you're Salah, trying to go a little bit wide to open up space.
That's normally what they do, right?
And maybe pull that defender away. And so I think you see Jesus trying to kind of split the difference and stay between, thinking that another defender is going to come in and cover. But then when Salah runs in front of him, it's not a run that I think he ever expected, and he's just kind of completely thrown by it.
Okay, so...
And then a deft little chip. You can't...
Oh, we've got the finish!
You can't forget the beautiful little chip that we both were like, ooh, he might still get there.
It's not going in, is it?
Nobody got there.
He measured it perfectly.
Yep.
Okay, another thing I'd like to talk about is... Anfield.
Yep.
The crowd. I know there's this famous thing. It's almost a cliche to talk about sort of European nights at Anfield, but this crowd was intense, right? Yep. They were sort of screaming for Liverpool. They were also booing Roma.
Yep.
From quite early on. Every time
beginning.
Roma had any sort of sustained possession, boos would absolutely ring out. And as far as I can tell, it wasn't for any particular reason, right? Normally it's like, say if someone had fouled a Liverpool player badly and not been booked for it, they would then get a load of boos every time they got the ball. It was basically just generally booed the concept of Roma having the ball, which I know the Roma players are professional. I know there's probably a good chance it didn't actually affect them in any massive degree. But if it affects them 0.5%, if it just makes you feel a little less comfortable than you would be on the ball, the crowd has done something that's influenced the game.
Or it goes the other way. And I think there's a chance it did, which is that if you are being constantly heckled, part of the reason why people heckle is to get a reaction, is to throw the person off their game, not because they're like, oh my gosh, everyone's booing me, this is so intimidating. Who was the German striker who couldn't play because it was too loud at Besiktas?
Timo
Werner.
Yeah.
So that can happen, but what I think can also happen is if you're an elite athlete who's super competitive, you want to silence that crowd. And so maybe when you would otherwise look to pass, you try to shoot because you want to score a wonder goal to make everybody be quiet. And as soon as you're doing stuff to silence a crowd or to deal with a crowd, you're not focused on the game the way you would be otherwise.
And the flip side of this is if you're a Liverpool player and you're being asked to do this high energy counter press thing, which Liverpool did really successfully for like 79 minutes, you need that extra shot of adrenaline, right? And you can't drink an energy drink or have performance enhancing drugs. You're definitely not allowed to do that. You know what I'm saying? You can't. There's nowhere else you can get.
You should not advocate that, Daryl.
Either of those things. You can't, mid-game, what I'm saying. You can't sort of get this burst of energy from anywhere except maybe the adrenaline that you can get from having sort of 40,000 people like yelling and chanting and cheering, and it just gives you that sort of burst of adrenaline that sort of allows someone like James Milner to give the extra bit and run around the field and charge people down.
Yes.
I really truly believe that. And maybe naive, I think it's true. I know Jurgen Klopp believes it.
That's the thing I wanted to get to, is that he definitely believes it because, number one, in the first half, once Liverpool started to get more shooting opportunities, even if it didn't go in, you would see they would cut to Klopp and he would be like gesticulating at the crowd to get them to start cheering louder and be into it more and not let their foot off the gas at all. But I think also it's worth noting that if you attack the way Liverpool do, and it is a little bit like free form and it's kind of all over the place, and even though there's a plan, it can be a little bit frenetic. If you're Jurgen Klopp and you choose that moment to yell at somebody for not being on the back post or for shooting when they should have passed, you are then kind of bringing them down. You're making them think like, oh, I shouldn't shoot next time. Oh, that was wrong. And you're making them think as opposed to kind of play freeform jazz and see what happens.
Yeah.
And so
flow state, as Bobby Warshaw was a big fan of from MLS Soccer, flow state is when you're not overthinking, you're just doing.
And so I think, again, that's credit to Jurgen Klopp for choosing to focus on keeping the crowd into it as opposed to saying, like, oh, you should have made a run 2 yards inside instead.
I've never thought of that as a cheering crowd contributes to a flow state of mind that helps you play
I think so, because even there was one moment when Trent Alexander-Arnold ran down like a lost cause ball. It was played out. It ended up being a goal kick for Roma, but he chased it down and really put in the effort, and the entire crowd responded to that in a way that, like, player runs out a ball that ends up being a goal kick isn't usually a thing that everyone's like, yeah! But in this case, it was.
If it would happen anywhere, it would happen in England.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. I want to share something with our listeners that I shared with you earlier. I read an interview with Rafa Honigstein.
That's right.
I think the interviewer was Grant Wall. It's in Sports Illustrated, at least. And it was about his book, Rafa Honigstein's book, which is about Jurgen Klopp. I think it's called Bring the Noise. And it was about the Liverpool job interview when Klopp was interviewed. One of the other candidates apparently was Ancelotti, and the interview panel at Liverpool asked Ancelotti, what do we need at Liverpool? What do you need to bring? And he said, I think, a new centre-back, a new midfielder, and a new forward, so we got a good spine of the team. Jurgen Klopp's answer was, we need to activate the crowd.
Yep.
Because we need Liverpool to connect to something that's bigger than what's happening on the field, to create that sense of euphoria, to really sort of give that extra edge. And that's what we saw tonight for most of the game.
That's such a good representation, though, of what Carlo Ancelotti is going to bring to your team. It's like a very pragmatic approach where he's going to tell you, I want these 4 players. Give me those 4 players. We will be competitive, but I don't really care about it. Like I can't imagine him being like, well, we got to get the crowd into it. I want to hear You'll Never Walk Alone sung at a different level. Like that seems to be much more of a Jurgen Klopp answer that definitely would probably speak to the emotional leaders of Liverpool and the fans.
But what I'm arguing here as well to underline is that the idea of activate the crowd also feeds into Jurgen Klopp's tactics, right? It's part of it. It's like an extra player that you can inject into the game.
Yes.
But here's what I want to get to as well is there was a point in this game where the Anfield crowd, they're 5-0 up. The substitutions have been made that we were talking about, and there was a kind of a celebratory mood, right? Because it was like, there's still 15 minutes to go, let's just enjoy ourselves. And there was a lot of just celebratory singing as opposed to intense cheering and booing of Roma. And I think it probably is some sort of a coincidence that that's when Roma managed to get 2 goals, but I think it also does have some influence on it. What I'm saying is basically, I'm not blaming the Liverpool fans because I would be celebrating being 5-0 up as well, but I think the change in atmosphere coincides with the sort of the slightly slower tempo that Liverpool adopt, the Mohamed Salah leaving the field for Danny Ings, and it just allows Roma to creep back into this tie.
So, first of all, we're not saying that like this was what happened, that the crowd went down or the crowd got jovial and then the players...
Yeah, I'm really wary of getting tweets about that.
But, because lots of other stuff happened. But I think you're not wrong. And I think you cannot say that the crowd have a massive impact on the players if they're cheering them on and keeping them going and keeping them like emotionally revved up and ready to go. If you're going to make that argument, then you can't then not say, I don't know how negatives work, but basically it then follows that if the crowd stop cheering that way and stop being antagonistic towards the opposition and start just celebrating, that if you've been responding to the crowd the entire time, if you're a player who has been sprinting everywhere 100% because the crowd is responding and now they're cheering for Danny Ings making a pass, you might think, I don't need to make that run. I don't really need to mark him as tight.
In addition, everybody's tired.
There's that too.
Because playing that way for 80 minutes, 75 minutes, 80 minutes makes you really, really tired. I think you start making not so good decisions. And I would argue Roma's first goal, the Dzeko goal, there's not enough pressure on the ball. I can't remember if it's Nangolan or Strootman.
It's Nangolan.
It's Nangolan managed to chip it up to Dzeko. And half of the defence, the left back, Robertson and Van Dijk, hold the line. They would have allowed Dzeko to stray offside. The other half of the defence, so it's Lovren and Trent Alexander-Arnold, drop deep with Edin Dzeko. So already there's problems there. Lovren drops so far that he thinks he can go and attack the ball, goes and attacks, tries to win it with a header, misses it completely. That's why Dzeko's able to sort of basically be one-on-one with Karius.
And I found this especially interesting because I was with you that I thought Lovren drops too deep, so he keeps Dzeko onside. Then he makes the like the ill-informed decision to, as the ball is in the air, so now Dzeko cannot be offside, chooses to move forward and try to meet it and misjudges the header. What I thought was surprising was that in the post-match interview, Jurgen Klopp seemed to say, no, this was Trent Alexander-Arnold, that he was just expecting, I think the interpretation was that Alexander-Arnold was expecting Lovren to win the header, so he switched off and stopped tracking Dzeko to make that covering defensive run because Trent Alexander-Arnold switched off. When Lovren doesn't get that header, now it goes to Dzeko, now he's unmarked, now he can score.
It feels really harsh to me.
It does.
I don't know if maybe is Klopp very sensitive to criticism of Dejan Lovren?
That's a possibility.
Because there's been quite a lot of that. And Lovren did have a wonderful game. Wonderful game. Like, beat Dzeko way more than most people would. Definitely more than Barcelona players did. So maybe he just didn't want to leave on a sort of a down note for Dejan Lovren.
Yeah,
but
that could be.
Blaming a teenager is...
Yeah,
you know
but
what I
it's
mean?
one who everybody's had universal praise for in the past few games.
So maybe TAA can handle it.
Maybe just rallies everybody around him. But then from there, it's 5-1. We're all like, oh, that'd be interesting, but
crowd
probably
start
not.
booing Roma again. Did you notice that? They did make it. They did sort of make the effort to let's recreate that atmosphere a little bit.
But it didn't really have much of an effect because 4 minutes after Dzeko scores, Roma get a penalty because it is Nainggolan again, takes a shot from about 25, 30 yards out, hits James Milner's arm. Actually, this might be a James Milner moment. Hits James Milner's arm, penalty given, taken by Perotti. I think Daryl said right before he takes it, like, you never know, and then he calmly put it top corner.
Strike,
right? It's a very good penalty.
All right, so 5-2.
Yeah.
5-2 is still a great result. I'm sure most Liverpool fans would have taken it before kickoff, but there's always that spectre of... Barcelona beat Roma 4-1, and they use that one away goal as the basis for a comeback in Rome. It's basically the same thing, right? It's a 3-goal lead with away goals to lean on that Roma have as well.
Not to be a bad improv partner here, but I'm not going to yes and you on this because no, I don't.
You didn't know about me?
I don't think it is the same situation, and I think that for two reasons.
Chris Gethard would throw you out of improv.
I mean, that's fair. That's deserved. I would say no for two reasons. One, I've done a lot of listing on this show. I apologize, but number one is that we went back and watched, and we thought it can't just be that Liverpool switched off a little bit. Roma must have done something. They must have figured Liverpool out. They did make the tactical adjustment that we mentioned.
Back four, right?
But really, it wasn't as though suddenly then Roma were just completely dominant and Liverpool were overwhelmed. It felt like Liverpool slipped up a couple times, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively, and Roma were able to get 2 goals. And so with that in mind, I think it was Gabriele Marcotti was saying that, yes, it's like a similar narrative, but the difference would be if you go back and look at the first leg of Barcelona-Roma, and that's what Eusebio Di Francesco did, was he showed them like huge chunks, his players, huge chunks of that game where they were the dominant team. And it was basically, the argument was, look, the scoreline didn't reflect the way that game should have gone. We'll play our game, we'll make smarter decisions, we'll win that.
That was the game with 2 unfortunate own goals.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I don't think you can point to this game and find a 40-minute chunk of Roma looking like the dominant team.
You could, if you get a really good editor, maybe the lady that
the one who edited the North Korean team from the 2014 World Cup or 2010 World Cup, was it 2010?
That's not where I was going. I was going to say Goodfellas.
That's fair.
Or Star Wars or Apocalypse Now.
Okay. So you're saying an actually good editor.
An actually good editor. You could maybe get like 4 minutes of Roma looking in control of this game.
And so I'm sure that they will do some interesting tactical adjustments.
Thelma Schoonemaker, I want to say, is who I'm thinking of. Never mind. Someone will call me on it.
Push your glasses up, nerd. Says the guy who made an elaborate Ottoman Empire comparison yesterday. I don't see Roma being able to totally blitz Liverpool the way I feel like they were able to Barcelona. I don't see Barcelona or Liverpool taking their foot off the gas the way Barcelona did. And so
probably won't start Danny Ings either, right? They'll probably start Mohamed Salah.
I would say probably not. My expectation is that it's going to be like a Roma win. Even though I believe Liverpool haven't lost in the Champions League this season, I expect a Roma win, but I bet Liverpool score.
I would put money on Liverpool. I mean, I won't literally, but I would put money on Liverpool to score away goals and do somewhat similar things. Right? Yeah.
But with all that said, it was strange that at the end of the game, it was like, oh, man, all Liverpool did was score 5 goals. We're not sure if that's enough. It's an odd feeling.
So there's more Champions League tomorrow. It is Bayern Munich hosting Real Madrid in the first leg of their semi-final. I am looking forward to that game. We will, of course, we'll be here. We'll do the exact same thing, right? Watch the game, review it afterwards. I'm not predicting 7 goals in that game.
I would say that's a safe thing to not predict. I would also say that you said more Champions League. Isn't it more Champions Leagues?
Yes, there are more Champions Leagues tomorrow.
Would have been better if I'd worked that joke out beforehand.
True.
I'm going to say joke in quotation marks.
The nature of improv. No but.
No but. You beat me to it.
Wednesday night, I think either 9 or 10 o'clock Eastern. I'm sorry, I'm not sure which one.
Man.
Chivas de Guadalajara host Toronto in the second leg of the Champions League final. As a quick reminder, Chivas have a 2-1 lead because of marking on throw-ins. But that game will be worth keeping an eye on. I've set the DVR to make sure we can watch it. Maybe we'll talk about that Thursday morning.
You're funny, Daryl. You're a funny guy.
Sometimes.
So we'll talk about that. We'll probably also have some more additions to the TSS Scouting Network.
Yes.
We've got plenty of those today.
Yeah, we do. Where would you like to start?
We'll start with Elijah Bates scouting. I'm going to say Zion Jones. We haven't really ever questioned the pronunciation. I think I've usually gone with Zien, but now I feel like Zion is probably more likely.
I think I strong-armed you into Zien. It's Zyen.
Yeah. I'm saying Zion.
Okay, I'll go
Zion Jones, the 17-year-old American forward for Schalke. Maybe Elijah can figure that one out. Zion, or Zien, appears to be fitting in well in Germany. He was recently seen celebrating wildly with the Schalke U19s. It also seems that Jones, Nick Tatagui, and Weston McKennie are all also becoming best friends, so the American connection at Schalke is in full effect.
Oh, come on, Domenico Tedesco. I would love to see an American-filled Schalke next season or the season after.
I would have no problem with that.
I should say, if you're new to the show, I'm really aware there might be some Liverpool fans who are just like, I want to hear about this big win. This section of the show is the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network. We have listeners with eyes on promising young players all around the world.
Mm-hmm. Trent Alexander-Arnold being one of them. But
he is,
no report filed within 40 minutes of the game ending. I can't really blame them for that.
And speaking of American fullbacks... Brian Hoyser.
He is.
Sort of, right? Brian Hoyser is scouting Cedeno Dest, the 17-year-old American right back for Ajax.
Until he is not, I will hold out for Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah, he's going to
hold out that hope. Yeah.
Cedeno Dest played the full match at right back as the Ajax U19s lost to PSV's U19s 2-0, says Brian. Neither of PSV's 2 goals were directly Dest's fault. The word directly scares me there. With one coming from the opposite side and the other being a howler. It was a day to forget for Cedeno and the Ajax U19s. They played sloppily and finished with 9 players. I'm going to assume that if Dest was sent off, Brian would have mentioned it.
I would say so.
Unless he's covering for him.
He could be. You never know. Alan Bedford scouting Jonathan Lewis, the 20-year-old American forward for NYC FC. I don't know if that was an inhalation of excitement, but it shouldn't be.
It's because I might ruin the scouting report here, but I saw that essentially NYCFC were down a couple of wingers and Lewis still didn't get near the team.
Lewis has only been on the bench twice this season and has not gotten any minutes. It seems he is out of favor, whether that's a discipline issue, as has been rumored, or that he's just out of favor with Patrick Vieira is not at all clear. As a Generation Adidas player, though, his salary doesn't count against the salary cap, so he's not likely to be traded.
But that's not good news, right, if he's not playing?
No.
I remember seeing Lewis for the U20s and thinking, I like this kid. I hope we get to see him in Major League Soccer.
I feel like the only good news that a player isn't playing might be Danny Ings in this case. Never good news otherwise.
James Pearson is scouting Mason Toye, the 19-year-old American forward for Minnesota United. James says that Mason Toye came on in the 84th minute of Minnesota's 3-1 loss to Seattle. Shout out to Mike Moon. Minnesota had no options after Inchy, that's Adrian Heath, put on Superman for Dunladi. Superman is Christian Ramirez.
I think so.
And the Loons slumped to their 4th loss in a row and looks as bad as last year's team of the unknown centre-back. James worries Mason won't get significant minutes until the World Cup break.
We shall see. Sam Nelson scouting Ulises Yanez, the 17-year-old forward for Los Dos. Uli scored his first professional goal this past Sunday in Los Dos' 1-1 draw with Red Bulls 2. He hit a beauty from just inside the box into the top right corner and tweeted out that he was both blessed to have scored and glad it was a banger.
I saw this goal. Mm-hmm. It really was a great goal.
Yeah. Would you say it was a banger?
Yes,
okay.
And I'm glad it was a banger.
All right, cool.
Russell Varner is scouting Hugo Ariano, the 20-year-old American defender for Los Dos. Ariano went the full 90 for Los Dos in that draw with New York. Played in his natural left centre-back position, this time pairing with a new partner, Jean Angola, and did a solid job overall. The highlights didn't show much of his play, which is probably a good thing for Los Dos.
Yeah, if your centre-back is featured prominently in the highlights, it's probably not a good sign.
Unless he's heading it in.
Well, that could be.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good point.
Side note, Russell Varner, I got your email and I'll get back to you this week.
All right. We'll keep
you
it
don't know what
cryptic.
that's about, do you?
Andy Johnson scouting Matt Real, the 18-year-old American left back for the Philadelphia Union. Real did not feature in the Union's 2-0 loss away to FC Dallas and was likely benched after conceding both goals in their 2-0 loss to Orlando City last week. However, the positive takeaway for Real is that his replacement, veteran defender Ramon Geddes, performed just as poorly. So we may see Real back in the starting lineup very soon. Silver linings in Philadelphia.
Jake Lamar is scouting Austin Trusty, the 19-year-old American centre-back for the Philadelphia Union. Jake says Austin Trusty went the full 90 in that loss to FC Dallas, but has not looked comfortable away from home all season. Trusty got on the wrong side of Hedges on a corner and took him down, giving away a penalty, and could possibly have done more to prevent Max Urruti from scoring the second.
It's basically like one of those like rounds the keeper, slots it in, and maybe Austin Trusty could have sprinted back and tried to cover the line.
I see.
But I think, as Jake said, that might have just been the camera angle. Right. Zachary Lindquist scouting Jackson Ewell, one of Daryl's favorites, one of Daryl's many favorites. 20-year-old American midfielder for San Jose. That's Jackson Ewell. Ewell got the start and recorded his first assist of the season in San Jose's match against Houston. He was then a second-half substitute in the Earthquakes' 3-2 loss to Orlando City, in which he wasn't at fault for any of Orlando's goals, but also wasn't involved in either of San Jose's.
Oh, I see a side note.
You do see a side note. Zachary asks, whatever happened to condensed matches on the MLS app? Does anyone know where to find them? I did not, so I left this for you, Daryl.
I still see them on the website. On MLSsoccer.com, I still see condensed matches.
Zachary, I think I still see them on the website. So on MLSsoccer.com, you might want to check the website and see if they're there.
Top research, Taylor.
My pleasure.
Top research. You know what we haven't talked about? We haven't mentioned that the games, MLS games, were streamed on MLSsoccer.com the first few weeks of the season. They are now on ESPN+.
Yep.
So there's a chance that some games have gone missing there as well.
That could be. That could be. We also haven't discussed, again, what's happening to my voice. The answer is because it's raining in Richmond. We had 3 groups totaling, I believe, 27 children in a small gymnasium today, and I was the one who did most of the shouting. So there you go. That's why it's extra burnt out today.
I appreciate your commitment, though. Jeff Markman is scouting Rhys Nelson, the 18-year-old English midfielder for Arsenal. Jeff says Rhys Nelson scored the opener and had an assist in a 3-1 victory over West Ham that secured the PL2 title for the young Gunners. The goal came on a well-worked counter-attack involving highly regarded teammates Joe Willock and Eddie Nketiah, with Nelson checking his run to find space in the 18-yard box, collecting a cut-back pass placed behind him, and turning and beating the keeper at the near post in a quick, fluid movement. Nelson was reportedly training with the first team following that match and could get more Premier League minutes this season. I nearly gave that an unhappy ending.
I was going to say that went from that's good to that's bad real fast.
I don't know where that came from.
Excuse me. Dylan Viech scouting Kai Havertz, the 18-year-old German midfielder at Bayer Leverkusen. Kai was a surprise omission from the starting 11 in Bayer's 4-0 defeat to Borussia Dortmund, but came on at halftime for Leon Bailey. His introduction was not enough to spark a turnaround, as Leverkusen were dominated the entire match and will now try to hold off Hoffenheim for that final Champions League place.
Best of luck to them.
Yeah.
Nick Becker is scouting Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, the 23-year-old Serbian midfielder for Lazio. Nick says after a slightly rough patch, SMS got back on track with a goal and an assist in Lazio's 4-0 win over Sampdoria on Sunday. He opened the scoring with a header in the 34th, added an assist when he squeezed a low and hard pass through the 6-yard box to Immobile in the 85th.
Nice work there from Sergey. Nice work from Steve Renard, scouting Yuri Tielemans, the 20-year-old Belgian midfielder from Monaco. It's a long report, but I enjoyed every part of it, so I left it all in. Monsieur Tielemans started at defensive midfield in a 4-2-3-1 versus Guingamp. Still have no idea how to pronounce that one, but was pulled after just 36 minutes and replaced by defender Kevin Ndoram. The substitution seemed to be an attempt to straighten things out in the wake of the red card given to centre-back Jemerson.
Oh, so Tielemans was like the sacrifice player.
I think so, because Jemerson decided the keeper's efforts were insufficient and blatantly handled the ball to prevent a goal in the 21st minute. Guignan scored on the resulting penalty and twice more before Monaco got a consolation goal in the second half to set the final score at 3-1. Tielemans did not seem to be personally responsible for any of Monaco's mistakes, but neither did he appear to be particularly interested in closing down opposing players or playing the sort of hard-nosed defense required when your team goes down a man in the 21st minute.
So is Steve kind of suggesting that in the 15 minutes between the red card and Tielemans coming off, that Tielemans didn't do enough?
I mean, I would say so. Even if he's not, I would say that's a fair guess to make, because if it takes 15 minutes for that change to happen, then you've got to imagine the manager's looking around and thinking, who is the one who's not pulling their weight?
Who can't we carry?
Yeah.
That's weird though, right? Because I think of Tielemans as a combative midfielder.
Yeah. Maybe he needs to start thinking of himself as the same?
Yeah. Tyler Williams is scouting Oliver Skipp. Skipp is a new addition to the scouting network.
I was going to say, I had not heard about him, and I now find him fascinating.
Well, he's a 17-year-old English Salvadorian defender/midfielder for Tottenham Hotspur.
It's a long title.
Tyler says young Oliver Skipp has been the most consistent holding midfielder for the Spurs U23s and U19s this season. That's a double award. But recently dropped into defence to play as a centre-back, but still sprayed passes around in the U23's 2-1 win over Chelsea. A result which likely saves Spurs from relegation, I'm assuming in PL2.
Yep.
Interestingly, even though he has played for multiple England youth teams, Skipp is listed as El Salvadorian from multiple sources, so he is likely eligible for both. I would say if I'm El Salvador, I'd get on that real fast.
I think if they've been trying to if they're still on the Junior Flores track, they definitely should be on the Oliver Skipp track as well. Final report comes from Matthias Boutin, I'm not sure which one, scouting Jean-Yves Balou-Tabla, the 19-year-old Ivorian Canadian right winger for Barcelona. Although he remains undecided whether he'll play for Canada or the Ivory Coast at the international level, Balou is convincing at Barcelona B. In his 9th appearance, he found the back of the net after exploding down the right wing in a 3-2 defeat against Rayo Vallecano. Once again, that is Jean-Yves Balou-Tabla.
Wow, that's I didn't know he was already playing for Barcelona B. That's some good stuff, because he's not been there that long.
Oh, now I'm sad for Mukele Akele again.
Not doing quite as well.
Not so much.
All right, thank you to everybody who sent in scouting reports. We very much appreciate it. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy. And if you listeners were ever wondering how long we can go talking about a single Champions League game, the answer appears to be, with scouting reports involved, I'm going to say 40 minutes.
I enjoyed it, though.
As did I.
Yeah?
There was lots to talk about.
We'll do it one more time, at least tomorrow, after Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. Listeners, thank you for listening. We appreciate it every single time, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.